Welcome back to American Catechism for episode number 65 for another Whiskey Holiday edition, coming to you from Fort Worth, Texas on Sunday, June 14th, 2026, where it is currently about 81 degrees. On American Catechism, I like to study American history, Western Civ, politics, religion, book and movie reviews, and whiskeys. Today, we're celebrating no less than 3 American holidays: Flag Day, the birthday of the United States Army, and National Bourbon Day. So, what a day. We'll be drinking a military whiskey for the occasion, Soldier Valley Lee Greenwood Bourbon. Just the facts. This is a 90 proof bourbon, aged for at least 4 years, costing about $45 now, but when I bought mine, it was about $60. And this may be a ghost whiskey, sort of now. Tasting notes: vanilla, cinnamon, delicate wood notes, sweet corn. This is a nice, sweet, gentle bourbon, easy sipper, no drama. I gave it a score of 81, a letter grade for drinkability, a B+. My recommendation: I kind of think it's a ghost whiskey now in some ways. It is a military whiskey, but it is also a celebrity whiskey because Lee Greenwood is this celebrity backing this brand, country music star. And this company, this whiskey company, went out of business a couple of years ago, but Lee Greenwood apparently has the rights to the name and the bottle and is bringing it back for the 250th birthday of the US of A. So good job, Lee Greenwood. This is a delicious sweet bourbon for a reasonable price, and if you are a vet, active duty, or just a pro-military, pro-country music person, find a bottle and enjoy. We'll talk more about this bourbon here in a little bit, but we've got a lot to go through, like Flag Day. So, June 14th, 1777, the Continental Congress adopted the American flag. So today, we celebrate Flag Day. Flag Day was proposed first in 1861 to rally support for the Union cause in the Civil War. But an official proclamation by President Woodrow Wilson in 1916 designated June 14th as Flag Day. And Congress finally passed an act in August 3rd of 1949 establishing Flag Day. Bernard J. Cigarond of Waubeka, Wisconsin, was a school teacher, and he first began implementing a Flag Day in his school in 1885, and he eventually became president of the American Flag Day Association. There you go. And then the National Flag Day Society. And so he was a big advocate for a National Flag Day. And so he's called the father of Flag Day. Patriotism and flag etiquette are not generally taught very well in today because I think the schools are dominated by teachers' unions and teacher colleges, which largely have a Marxist, anti-American view. I think we need to restore some Americanism to the public schools. We need to fly our flags on our houses and businesses on Flag Day. Now, this is also the U.S. Army birthday. Founded by the Second Continental Congress on June 14, 1775, a couple of months after the Revolutionary War started with the battles of Lexington and Concord in Massachusetts. Battle of Lexington Green is pictured there. George Washington of Virginia had prior military experience with the Virginia Regiment of Militia, and he had teamed up with the British under General Braddock at the Battle of Monongahela in the French and Indian War. And so he was chosen as the commanding general of this new Continental Army. Now, after the Revolutionary War, the Army was disbanded. But because of frontier difficulties with Indians and some ongoing issues with the British, it was reconstituted June 4th of 1784. So sometimes you see the birthday of the Army listed as June 4th and sometimes as June 14th. The Army's motto is, "This we'll defend." Now, my personal connection to the Army. My father served in the Army under Patton in World War II, fighting in Germany in 1945. My grandfather served in the Army under General Pershing in France in World War I and was wounded in combat. And I've got his Purple Heart as well as his campaign ribbons today. I served in the Army during the Cold War in the 1980s, and one of my sons is a career soldier to this day, with one combat tour in Iraq with the 82nd Airborne. I was raised in an era where many of my peers had dads who were veterans. The vast majority of men in the churches that we attended growing up were veterans of both World War I and II, Korea, and even Vietnam. I remember having a Sunday school teacher who had a Silver Star from Vietnam. Schools in those days taught history, patriotism, flag etiquette, patriotic songs. And so it's sad to me today that so much goes untaught with the current generation, both at school and at church. Today is also National Bourbon Day, hence the bourbon. Now, legend has it that the Baptist minister Elijah Craig, and I've been a Baptist minister in my past, accidentally invented bourbon on this date in 1789. But more historically, President Lyndon Johnson signed the Senate Resolution 19 on June 14th, 1964, that recognized bourbon as the distinctive American spirit, and bourbon became the national drink. So cheers. One of the few things that President Johnson got right. All right, so let's talk about this bourbon. History. Soldier Valley Spirits and Patriarch Distillers. Formed in 2012 in La Vista, Nebraska, a suburb of Omaha. Although if you look at the bottle, this juice was made in Lawrenceburg, Indiana, MGP, and the bottling is in Bardstown, Kentucky. So its parentage is a bit complex. The bottle looked outstanding when I saw it in the store shelves, and so I started researching it. And the first edition that I bought was their whiskey. And then I found this bourbon, and that was, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. And I found this bourbon a couple of years ago and purchased it at Specs here in Fort Worth. But some of the background here, Soldier Valley Spirits or Patriarch Distilling was the original name, and founded by a guy who was an Army vet by the name of Jeff Haddon. And he wanted to start a whiskey company out of passion for good whiskey and to celebrate and honor United States military veterans. And so he researched the bottle design, and he got a patent and trademark for this World War II style canteen shape. And that's what drew me to this initially. I mean, how cool is that? So this is a classic example of bottle design being excellent marketing. And you'll notice also it's got kind of a dog tag thing for Lee Greenwood, actually. It's got Lee Greenwood's initials on there. And so the name also was attractive. I mean, Soldier Valley Spirits. So this whiskey, he also had a Marine veteran working for him named David Young. And then they teamed up with Lee Greenwood in 2020. Therefore, this whiskey counts as both a military whiskey and a celebrity whiskey. And some of the whiskey varieties that they had the Lee Greenwood whiskey, which I had, and I've reviewed on this channel. Lee Greenwood bourbon here. They had an Omaha Beach bourbon because it's made in Omaha, right? And they had private stock rye, a 10-year rye, and a 12-year rye, which I never saw, along with some vodka, rum, and flavored whiskeys. Sadly, however, they went out of business in late 2024, but it appears that Lee Greenwood has contracted with MGP to produce this bourbon again for the 250th birthday of America. And so I have recently seen bottles of this bourbon at Specs in Fort Worth. So even though the company folded a couple of years ago, either there's still some stock around, or Lee Greenwood's redo is out there in the stores. So kudos to Lee Greenwood for bringing this back. This is a fine tasting bourbon. And again, the bottle and label is so unique. This is just wonderful for somebody like me. So for history, though, only a 3 out of 5 because the company did fold, sadly. I think the bourbon boom and bust got them. All right, so bottle label and marketing. Again, the bottle's what convinced me to buy this whiskey 4 years ago. And the name is amazing. Lee Greenwood's marketing, obviously. So there's a lot going on here with bottle label and marketing. And, a little touch like a dog tag there. This is a plastic cap with a synthetic stopper. But the clear glass, you can even see, the canteen shape, and this is the canteen cup. So this is really pretty cool. A little bit of embossing on that bottle. 6, they got your 6 on both sides there. So really clever marketing, great bottle. I just wish the company had stayed in business. So 5 out of 5 for bottle, label, and marketing. The appearance of this whiskey, it's not super dark. The bottle says it's over 4 years old. So it's a light golden color here in the glass. So that's a low 3. It's not very dark at all. So 3 out of 5 for appearance. Composition, the bottle says it is 90 proof for 45% ABV and aged at least 4 years, distilled in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. And the website, which is still up, although, you can't buy anything there, says that it's 21% rye and the rest is corn and barley. So, a little bit of a high rye content there, but not much. 12 out of 15 for composition. The nose. Very light nose, faint. A little bit of corn, touch of vanilla, actually. And it's hard for me to smell vanilla for whatever reason. So anytime I can actually smell vanilla, that's a good day for me. And I get vanilla here very clearly. That's wild. I gave that a 7 out of 10 initially. I'm going to up that to an 8 because of the vanilla. And, I'm not even using a Glencairn. And I can get vanilla. So that's amazing. And I'm getting it stronger today than I did the other day when I first reviewed this. So that bumps me up to an 82. So the nose is delightful with that vanilla. So that's pretty good. And the taste. So that's an 8 out of 10 on the nose. And the vanilla follows through on the palate. When I get vanilla, a little bit of cinnamon, some delicate wood notes. The sweet corn predominates. So really, this is a nice, sweet, gentle bourbon. And easy sipper. No drama. It's not harsh. 21 out of 25 on the taste, on the palate. Now, mouthfeel, burn, and finish. It's a medium mouthfeel, certainly not thin. I get gentle mouth tingles, and then a slight burn in the back. Goes down the hatch a little bit with a burn, up just a little bit with a burn. But it's an enjoyable burn for me. This is not harsh. It's smooth, kind of a medium finish. The sweet corn, the vanilla, a little bit of wood lingering. So, and it is a bit warming on the way down. Not quite a Kentucky hug, but warming. So mouthfeel, burn, and finish, 13 out of 15. Now, versatility, flexibility. Again, this is an easy, lovely sipper. Neat. And that's my favorite way. The flavors and the proof might hold up to ice if you so desire. And I think it's pretty sweet for a cocktail. But yesterday, I did make an old fashioned. I used about 2 ounces of the bourbon, 3 dashes of Angostura bitters, turbinado sugar cube, and 1 Luxardo cherry with some juice and a little bit of an orange peel. And it came out wonderful. So let me pause and go make another old fashioned, perhaps with a little different recipe. Hold on. And I'm back, and I made another old fashioned. Changed up the recipe from yesterday. Instead of the turbinado sugar cube, I used just a little dash of maple syrup. I wanted to darken this whiskey a little bit. And by darken, I don't mean just visually. I mean darken the flavor notes. And so I did 2 things. 3, actually. I used the maple syrup, and I used 2 Luxardo cherries instead of just 1. But I used the Angostura bitters, but I also used some black walnut bitters. There's some wood notes in this whiskey that I wanted to emphasize. And I think that black walnut might complement that a little bit and bring that out some. So we'll see how this turned out. Because the one yesterday it was very good. It was just a little bit too sweet for me. So let's see. Yes, this is much better than the one yesterday. I don't mind a really sweet old fashioned, but I prefer less sweet, more wood, nutty. This is about perfect right here. This is right down the middle of the home plate. Still very sweet, but that black walnut bitters really helped it. Still have the orange peel going on in there, so it is citrusy. You can adjust your old fashions. There's no set one way to do an old fashioned. You can have a lot of variety. And so I like to take my cues off of the whiskey. This whiskey was a very sweet whiskey. And the wood notes were there, but I wanted to emphasize that a bit more. So doing the old fashioned this way really helped. So versatility, flexibility, 5 out of 5 points. Price, value, and availability. I can find this only at Specs in town now. That's the only place I've ever seen it. $45.25 is what I saw recently. And that's about $15 cheaper than when I bought mine a couple of years ago. And again, like I said, Lee Greenwood is bringing this bourbon back on his own for a limited time. So this isn't going to be around long. So if you're a vet, if you're an Army vet, if you're in the Army or Army friendly, like Lee Greenwood, country music, from Nebraska, whatever. I mean, this is a very good, solid bourbon. I think the price at $45 is really a decent price for this. 7 out of 10 because availability is limited. Bonus points. I absolutely love the concept of this whiskey, the name of the brand, the bottle, Lee Greenwood endorsement, of course, and the bourbon itself is tasty. It's a good bourbon. So between the story, the bottle, and the bourbon, absolutely. I'm sick that this company went under, but I'm grateful for Lee Greenwood bringing it back in a reprise. So 5 out of 5 bonus points, giving me a total score now of 82. Again, I bumped it up because of the nose. I was really getting a strong vanilla. And so letter grade for drinkability, B+. Analysis and recommendation. Again, it's sort of a ghost whiskey. It's a military whiskey, celebrity whiskey, but thankfully making a reprise with Lee Greenwood. It is a deliciously sweet bourbon, very flexible, reasonable price. So that's my recommendation. All right, next up, we're going to go back to our National Rye Tournament. And so I've got 2 ryes that are going to do a head-to-head match. Corsair Dark Rye coming out of Nashville, and Michter's Straight Rye Single Barrel. So these are going to be in a head-to-head competition later this week. Until then, go America, Flag Day, U.S. Army Day, and Bourbon Day. This is Stab the Dragon Productions and American Catechism out here.